Hi everyone, my name is Joseph and I'm here at the American Immigration Lawyer Association conference in Denver, Colorado. We have some major updates from ICE, from USCIS, and from all the other expert panelists that's sharing on these immigration news. But as of right now, in this administration, USCIS, the immigration services, as well as ICE, have stopped communicating with AILA National. Not the local level, meaning in the state, in the county, in the districts, there are still ongoing liaison activity that's going on where we can receive information when we have things that we want to ask, they will share. But at the national level, at the federal level, it is off. But still, at least we have all these experts able to come and share. So we were reporting live on some of these most important issues. So first, here's something that is quite concerning. We know a lot of ICE officers have been picking up people from the streets, from detention centers, from USCIS field office interviews, from workplaces. That's obviously very distressing. One of the questions was that, how do we know we're not being kidnapped? The first thing is you cannot ask them, and they are not obligated to take off their masks. But if you are approached by ICE, if you are in fear that you're being kidnapped by somebody who's pretending to be ICE, you can demand, and they are obligated to show their badge. Here's another thing, and this blew my mind. U.S. citizens are being detained mistakenly, but held for potentially 2-3 weeks. Not 2-3 hours, not 2-3 days, 2-3 weeks. How can this possibly happen? And it is almost mind-boggling to have to advise people, including U.S. citizens and green card holders, to carry your identification with you because this is the current situation. Hopefully they fix it within a few months. But as of now, if you are in a position where there is a potential and a high potential where ICE might detain you, just know they are completely swamped with detaining so many people. They don't have enough manpower and work hours to process everyone. So by the time they figure out who you really are, it might be a long time. Oh, another thing is there's going to be a lot of litigation with ICE. Every government agency, when there is a change in policy, they need to disclose it to the public. There have been a lot of policies that have changed in the past couple months that were completely not announced. So because that's been happening, both AILA and ICE and the government is anticipating a lot of these regulation changes, a lot of FOIA requests to understand what exactly is going on, what are they saying, and how are they disclosing it, and what should we do in response. Now we're going to go into USCIS. These officers came and they said it is in a state of fear. They are just as confused as we are in the private bar, in the nonprofit sector, as well as the clients, because the executive orders that go out, there's no clarity, there's no explanation, there's no training, there's no teaching. This is very much in line with my experience when we go to the local field offices and asking local field officers exactly what's going on, how are they interpreting it, how are they applying it. There is no clarity, there's no guidance on exactly how to execute these executive orders. Largely, the field offices are still adjudicating in the same way. You might be saying, I disagree. I don't think so. I've been practicing and I've seen how this administration, and I've seen the new request for evidence, I've seen the notice of intent denies, there are things that is completely different. These officers have said it is probably largely due to the new hires that are undertrained. So let me paint the picture for you. In the past 6 months, a lot of USCIS officers who are of retirement age or almost retirement age, they took the buyout, so they have left because there's a mandatory return to office mandate for USCIS officers. And so a lot of people did not return to office, chose not to return office, and these are a lot of them career USCIS officers that have been there for a long time. So all the experience, all the know-how, gone. They're hiring new officers. Lack of training. New executive order. Confusing. So the requests for evidence that have gone out with zero thing in it, right? Imagine that. We've gotten some of these. We file a huge case, 1,000 pages. We get a request for evidence. Your case is not approvable. Please submit new documents. Blank. Well, what do you want us to provide? Do you want to just provide everything again? I know other attorneys who have taken the whole thing and just reapplied again. Like, you gave us a request for evidence that said nothing, so we just assume you didn't read it, so we sent the whole thing back to you, right? Like, it's absolutely insane, but that's more so due to the lack of training as opposed to the political shift in this administration. Just to be clear. So that's something that we have been seeing in USCIS. There's a heightened sense of fear among USCIS officers. Why? Every email is monitored. They're being polygraphed. It is an extremely scary time to be a USCIS officer. And the advice from all the expert panelists is, because we know that that is the mentality, state, and experience of many officers today, when you file a case, treat them like an intern. Treat them like, when you file a case, make it extra clear. Highlight, bold, circle, write little memos. Don't treat them like an experienced officers. Don't treat them like they are the legal counsel of USCIS. Treat them like it's your intern. You're writing instructions. How should you approve this case? And this is why this case is approvable. Here's the law. Here's the memo. Here's the executive orders. It isn't compliant. Do not worry. It is a good case, right? You're not going to get fired for approving this case. Do that extra step of making it extra easy for the officers because they need it. The biggest misunderstanding about tourist visa or ESTA, their visa waiver, some people just rely on the past experiences. I was always fine flying in, therefore I won't have a problem in the future. That is wrong. Also, all I have to care about is this time. Only this time I prepare extra well, even if I had a bad experience in the past. As long as I document everything well this time, it will be fine. That is also wrong. Both are incorrect, and let me explain why. Just because you have past records of success coming in doesn't necessarily mean they will approve you this time. And this is why. If you're a tourist visa or if you're ESTA visa waiver, if you've been constantly coming in every 3 months, every 6 months, and you stay for significantly longer than everybody else, other people stay for 1 week, 2 weeks, you stay for 2 months, 3 months. At some point, they will get suspicious and they might think you are abusing your visa privileges and they revoke your visa and turn you away. The second thing is, if you have a past experience that you weren't prepared well and you got pulled in secondary, and this time you came and you have all the documents to prepare and you explain your return travels, where you're going, where you're staying, that doesn't mean that that your past will no longer affect you, because CBP officers still look into the past as well as now. As well as different agencies are different. Tourist visa coming in, filing an extension, getting the extension approved, leaving, you might think you're fine because you came in, you stayed within the bounds of your admission, 6 months, you filed the extension, got approved, and you left before it expired. Next time you came in, sorry, visa got denied. Just because USCIS accepts your extension does not mean CBP, the customs officer, will accept that approval later on. So be very, very, very careful. Likewise, just because CBP allowed you in for 6 months and then you file a change of status doesn't mean USCIS will necessarily approve your extension. Different agencies with their own unique requirements. So here is the main thing. If you are on a tourist visa and you're flying in and you're here doing business, you really want to meet the main factors. You really need to prove that there's this ongoing business relationship, that it is contractual, there's a specialized knowledge in place, and largely you mainly want to prove that U.S. workers cannot do what you're doing. For example, if you're coming in and you say you are a pipe repairer and you're coming in and you're doing plumbing, sure, that might be true, but why can't U.S. customers just hire a U.S. plumber? Why do they need to fly somebody over from overseas to do all the plumbing? If it's a proprietary technology that needs to be installed and it's like a one-time thing, makes sense. But if you're constantly flying and doing plumbing, you're probably just working, right? And so a lot of situations like that, if there is an L1 category, an E2 category, another visa category that's much more fitting for your job, CBP officers are encouraging people to do that and don't abuse the B1, B2 because they see it all the time. That is one of the things that they're looking for the most. You've gotten your visa and you've been continuously coming to the US. Why? Who do you work for? Let me check your electronic devices, right? So if there's another visa category, definitely apply for that one instead. I know it's expensive. I know it's hard to get, but that's what, I mean, if CBP cancels your visa, good luck trying to get a new one at the consulate. Unless you can prove that it was CBP's error, it is really difficult to try to get again. The next major topic is about electronic devices. CBP officers have one of the highest clearance regarding electronic device searches. If you say no, I'm not willing to let you search it, I'm not willing to let you see it, they could still search it, they could still see it, they could scan the whole thing without you even knowing they scanned it and check it on their back end. Ever since 9/11, they have the heightened clearance to be able to do this. Now, with that being said, if you are an attorney, or if you work very closely with many attorneys or with attorneys and you have a big project, you can say there are privileged information on this device. If you want to see it, please make sure you get the clearance from the legal counsel. So now, not only the officer, the supervisor, now they actually have to get CBP legal counsel to approve the search. When we were talking to CBP officers, this is the advice they gave. If you have nothing to hide, just tell us what and where to search it. For example, if the officer and you're talking about your work and your travel, you can say, look, I'm not going to work in the US. Let me prove it to you. Here's my WeChat. Here's my Line. Here's my WhatsApp. Here's the things that I'm doing. Take a look at it. And here's the things that I'm looking at. Show them yourself. And then when the officer is glancing through it, seeing it like, yeah, that's true. You are being clean. That's fine. That's understandable, right? If, for example, you got your green card through a marriage case, and now the officer is suspecting you that your marriage is fraudulent or your marriage no longer exists. Say, we have a lot of text messages, we have a lot of photos together, we just went to Hawaii together, we just went somewhere, let me show you. You specifically show the officers the things that they want to see to prove their case. If they're searching your phone, it's probably because the conversation has gotten pretty bad. Maybe you've said something you really, really shouldn't have said. Maybe there's something on your record that's there but that you know about or you don't know about, and the line of questioning causes them to really suspect. Now they need to search your phone. Help them search the things that they're looking for so it could prove your innocence, and hopefully you will be fine. If you want your case to be faster, discovery is your best method to get them to do and approve your case. If they say, we cannot process your case faster, we are swamped, we don't have enough people to hire, we don't have enough people to process all of these cases, we are in a state of emergency. Granted, we understand. Your actions, your delay is justified. But please, prove it. I believe you, but just prove it. So show us all the documents of how many cases have you been processing and why you're so understaffed and your training. Go through discovery. If you can justify your delay, we'll drop the lawsuit. But if you cannot, then please approve the case. From what we have seen at this AILA conference, all the experts have said when it gets to discovery, the government folds. The government, USCIS, CBP, ICE, the legal departments for all these administrations, they are not willing to enter discovery. So the ultimate solution to trying to speed up your case that has been unjustly and unduly delayed is to file a mandamus action and go into discovery. And because at that stage, from what everybody has been saying, the government folds and just adjudicates the case. Now, that doesn't mean everybody should just willy-nilly and file a mandamus every single time they feel impatient. You still should give government the proper amount of time to adjudicate these cases. If the reasonable time frame that they say that they are under is unreasonable to you, then sure, you can fight them in court and file for this discovery request. But this is, I've always known mandamus's work. In our experience, all the mandamus actions we file, we get results very quickly, sometimes within a month. But I didn't know the backstory behind that is that they're so afraid of discovery. If you want your file from the government, by filing a FOIA request, you are eligible to get it, but can you get it faster? Because a lot of the processing these days, we're seeing it to be extremely long, some over 6 months, when they're required to give it to you within 20 days. How do you get it faster? Well, USCIS have updated their FOIA request system, and there's 3 different ways. There's the simple way, there's the complex way, and there's the emergency way. All 3 you need to be mindful for, right? If it's simple, you explain why it's simple and ask them to. And sometimes they'll prioritize it, print it out, give it to you because there's nothing to redact. If your case is complicated, meaning there's a lot of things that needs to be redacted, how do you know if your case is complicated? Well, if there's a third party involved, it's generally complicated. If your employer is petitioning you and you want your file. Well, the government can't give you employers' tax returns, so they have to redact it. If you have other experts, if you have FBI involved with your U visa case, their notes have to be redacted. It's a complicated case. If your file is over like 200, 300, 500 pages, which a lot of people's cases are, it could be extremely complicated. If your case have multiple previous denials and there's a lot of notes and investigations on you in the file, you know it's complicated. If it's complicated, that doesn't mean you necessarily need to say it's complicated. You can still say it's simple because I only want this document, right? I just want this approval notice on this date. Well, that is a pretty simple request. They pull your file, find a thing, and give it to you. They don't have to go through the 2,000 pages, redact everything, and then give it to you, right? So there's the simple and there's the complicated. And then there's the emergency. Humanitarian emergency is usually one of them. You have an immigration court hearing. You need the file in order to defend yourself, or else you and your entire family will be deported. You have a good basis, so please provide my FOIA request and receive everything. All of these things are really important. I didn't even know these many different tricks until I came to this conference and these expert panelists were sharing how to get your FOIA requests approved faster and better. It is so important for the public to know that FOIA exists to benefit them. It keeps the government accountable. If they're denying a case, if they're approving a case, what basis do they have? What do they look at when they look at you individually in the system? You can get access to all of that. This is a very philosophical question regarding immigration. Okay, you decide what is right. Any high schooler who's taken political theory should be able to answer this, but we are in a new era. Who determines what is the law? Is it Congress? Is it the executive branch? Or is it the judiciary? We have tons of actions that the executive administration have implemented, have done, and now it is being appealed through the judiciary. And whenever the judiciary, district court or the federal court, makes a ruling that the executive branch does not like, they immediately appeal it up to the Supreme Court. Almost all of these appeals, the executive administration, the executive branch, is not providing any substantive rationale. They have the simple answer, national security, and if the Supreme Court doesn't do anything and if all the other judiciary doesn't do anything, then doesn't that mean that the executive branch of the government, what they do is the law of the land? In past administrations, that was not the case. Executive branch does certain things. When the judiciary stops it, it gets stopped and it gets discussed, it gets debated, and then it gets finalized, and the Supreme Court would rule or revert it back to the federal courts, the lower branches, to determine key issues and key matters according to the Constitution. And if the Constitution is off and the public doesn't like it, the elected officials in Congress can amend the Constitution for the courts to administer. And the executive branch is supposed to function accordingly. But that is not what we're seeing. But we have to see what the Supreme Court ultimately rules. And if the Supreme Court continuously defers and ignores this philosophical question, then it is as if the judiciary and Congress have put all the power and handed it to the executive branch. And that will be the state of the union. Wish you guys all the best. Take care. Bye-bye.